guys, Big Dog Beef. We wanted to, I want to do, now that I've got an AR, I have reason to have AR magazines, right? PMAGs. I opted for PMAGs, again, Magpul. I really like them. But what we have here in front of you today is we have the Gen 2. This is windowed, so you have to kind of suspend a little bit of disbelief here. This is the Gen 2 windowed PMAG 30. And right here is a brand new, just came out, PMAG Gen 3. Now this is the non-windowed version. I wasn't able to find any of the windowed versions at the time. But what we're going to do today, just want to run through them. Basically, at first sight, these are really, look to be almost exactly the same. The main differences are that here in the front, the new Gen 3 has some texture here, as well as on the back. Basically, other than, and then the one thing that a lot of people really do notice, down here it says PMAG 30. Over here they have these dots, which is to help improve grip, one, and it is actually, they call the paint pen dot matrix. What it allows to do is you can use a paint pen to mark, I guess, a code for yourself as to what's loaded in the magazine along those lines. Basically, nothing as much has changed. They look to be very similar in size. They're similar in length. The up top, the dust covers are interchangeable. So if you have a bunch of Gen 2s and then you get a bunch of Gen 3s, it doesn't matter which dust cover goes where, they fit the same. So let's go over a couple of the differences that Magpul mentions on their website. I figure I might as well get that out of the way. Basically, both magazines have the same impact and crush-resistant polymer construction. This, on the new one, is, they call it the next generation, so apparently it's an upgraded formula of sorts. The dimensions of the new one have been modified slightly so that it fits better with, as they call it, non-Colt platforms, which would be like the HK416, the MR556A1, the M27, the IAR, the British SA80, and like the FN Scar. These new mags will now fit a little bit better, or without needing to be modified as you would have had to do for the Gen 2s. Let's see, they both still have the constant curve internal geometry, the anti-tilt self-lubricating follower. Let's see. The USGI stainless steel follower spring. And that's really about it. After that, there's the ribbed gripping surfaces that we already went over here on the new ones. And there's a new one here that they did. It says a flared foot plate aids in magazine handling and disassembly, yet is slim enough for use with many double and triple pouches. I have noticed that the floor plate of the, let me hold that up there. The floor plate of the Gen 2, which is this one here, does seem a little bit wider, and I know a lot of people have complained that it's hard to get like magazines. If it's a, it's an AR pouch and it's designed for double, a PMAG may not fit in there very well. It may be a very tight fit. So the Gen 3 supposedly has fixed that by making this a little bit more flush in here, as you can see. One thing that I wanted to check, and I was kind of hoping this would happen, and unfortunately it doesn't work. If you have the Magpul Ranger plates, like I do here, the Ranger plates that are currently out, and I'm assuming they're going to fix this, or they're going to change it for the Gen 3s, or they're going to release for the Gen 3s, and maybe they already have and I just missed it, I don't know. This Ranger plate right here will not fit on a Gen 3, and I'll show you why. Let me back you guys out for a quick second here. You know what, I'll just use a screwdriver that I got here. See, if I now just pop off the bottom plate of the Gen 2, okay, and I mean, you really don't need to do an installation video. See, that just pops right on because of the way it's designed, okay? So now if I pop this back off again, and I'm just going to put the plate back on, let's look at the Gen 3. The Gen 3, notice I'm holding it the same direction, okay? If I push the retainer down, it slides to the back. It doesn't slide forward anymore. It now slides to the rear. So now if I hold this down, the only way that this is going to fit on, you can see, is only one direction. Well, if I tried putting it on this direction, it doesn't fit. So that is one thing I was slightly disappointed about, because I already had a bunch of Ranger plates, but the Ranger plates do not fit on the new Gen 3s. I'm assuming Magpul is going to correct that. If they have, I haven't seen anything on it yet. So basically at this point, it's entirely up to you as a consumer and as an AR owner, or in this case, if you own one of the other ones, as to which one you would prefer. Whether you would look to spend the extra money and get one of the new Gen 3s, or stick with the Gen 2s. Honestly, other than a couple other things that are different, I don't see a huge difference to justify really the extra money for the Gen 3s just yet. Especially now that with the Gen 3s just coming out, the Gen 2s are really cheap. I mean, you could pick up a nice windowed Gen 2 for maybe $13, $14 at the most. Maybe even less. A non-windowed version you may be able to even get for 10 to 12. Depends on where you live, depends on how many you buy, and all of those kind of things. I will say one thing that I did like from Magpul is with the Gen 3, they definitely utilized YouTube a lot more when it came to their testing. I went back and looked, and Magpul only had a couple videos for the Gen 2s, which were mostly crush tests, and that's really about it. You know, they ran a car over it and then compared it to a US GI aluminum mag, and then did tests for failing and stuff. For the Gen 3s, they not only did the crush test, which again, they rolled, I think they rolled a deuce and a half over this thing, and then ran it through and tested it. They also did a side impact, where they took and dropped something on the side and then tested it, and of course it passed both of them. They did a feed lip drop test, which would have been, they dropped it from a height of 6 feet so that it landed on the feed lips, and then ran a test, and it passed all tests there. And again, comparing it with the USGI standard, you know, USGI mags, they did, let's see, they did a heat and pressure test. They did a full weapon drop, so they put a loaded mag in a weapon and dropped it on concrete to see how it reacted. Again, now they're using dummy rounds. They didn't obviously load up with real ammo. They did a cold weather feed lip drop, so they actually froze one of these and then dropped it just like they did in the first one. And the best one that I saw, and I'll put a link to this one specifically, they did a ballistics puncture test. Now this one was my absolute favorite, because basically they had the magazine in a vise like this and they shot it. They put a round of .223 through the magazine and then tested it. Guess what? It ran. Okay, when they did it to this mag here, there was the metal, because of the way it expanded, prevented the follower and the spring from moving. On the PMAG, there was no plastic inside or out the other side. It was a clean hole, and after they shot it, it even looked like it almost sealed itself up, but they ran it through another weapon at full auto, and it fed flawlessly, even with a bullet hole in it. So that tells you something, and I imagine the same thing would happen with the Gen 2 as well. So Magpul is not paying me for any of this. I'm just giving you my opinions and my thoughts and what I've experienced, and you guys will, honestly, you really kind of need to experience it for yourself. If you are a Magpul PMAG person, I'm not telling you anything you probably don't even know. If you're a standard aluminum USGI mag, because you can get them cheap, get them, you know, they're easy to find, you know, then that's your preference as well. See, there you go. There's a little bit of a problem right there. Personally, I like the PMAGs. I like the way they feel. I like the way they load. I like the way they feed. I think they're excellent. So again, just my opinion. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.